The champagne glass shattered against marble. Crystal fragments caught the light like dying stars. Kang Dae-young didn't flinch. He'd watched men die with less drama than this woman's entrance. But he wasn't watching the scene at the charity gala. He was watching her. Across the ballroom, through designer gowns and tailored suits, through 5 years of trying to forget, there she was. Imani Cole, the one who got away. Except she didn't get away. She ran. She wore emerald green tonight, the color she'd always said made her feel powerful. Her natural hair was styled in an updo that showed the curve of her neck. The neck he used to. Sir. His bodyguard's voice cut through memory. The woman. Should I remove her? Dae-young's jaw tightened. No. Because Imani wasn't causing the scene. She was avoiding it, pressing against the wall, trying to become invisible. She was terrified. Of the crowd. Of the attention. Of him. Their eyes met across 50 feet of Seoul's elite. Her face went pale. Then she turned and walked straight toward the exit. Fast. Purposeful. 5 years ago, she'd done the same thing. Just walked away without explanation, leaving him with questions that had festered into rage, then grief, then the cold emptiness he wore now like armor. Dae-young set down his own glass. Made a decision he'd regret. Follow her. Sir. Follow her. But don't approach. I want to know where she goes. Who she's with. Everything. As Imani disappeared through the gilt doors, Dae-young felt something he'd thought was dead wake up inside his chest. Hope. Fury. The dangerous combination that made men do stupid things. The woman who destroyed him was back in Seoul. And this time, he wouldn't let her vanish without answers. 5 years earlier, Imani had walked into his life at an art exhibition. He'd been there for business. The gallery owner owed him money, and Dae-young was collecting. She'd been there for the art, standing in front of a painting like it held secrets. It's about loss, she'd said without looking at him. The artist is painting what can't be recovered. How do you know? Because I know what loss looks like. She'd turned then, and Dae-young forgot why he was there. You're Kang Dae-young. I've heard stories. Believe half of them. Which half? The dangerous half. She should have walked away. Instead, she smiled. Good thing I like danger. That was the beginning. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into late nights at his penthouse, talking about everything except what he did for a living. She was an art curator from Chicago, in Seoul for a 6-month fellowship. Smart, passionate, unafraid to call him out when he was being cold. You use silence as a weapon, she told him once. Stop it. I'm not scared of you. She should have been. 3 months in, Dae-young realized he loved her. Terrifying, inconvenient love that made him consider things he'd sworn off. Family, future, vulnerability. He'd been planning to tell her. To explain what he really did. To offer her a choice. Stay knowing everything. Or leave safely with no hard feelings. But before he could, she vanished. Left Seoul without a word. Changed her number. Disappeared so completely it was like she'd never existed. Now, standing in his penthouse office, watching security footage of her leaving the gala, Dae-young tried to reconcile the woman he'd loved with the ghost who'd run. His phone buzzed. His investigator found her, staying at the Grand Hyatt. Checked in 3 days ago. Alone. Alone. The word settled strange. He'd imagined her married by now, building a life with someone who wasn't him. How long is she staying? Unknown. No return flight booked. Dae-young stared at Seoul's skyline. 5 years he'd told himself he was over her. 5 years of building his empire higher, colder, more ruthless. All of it crumbling because she walked into a ballroom wearing emerald green. He should leave her alone. Should let the past stay buried. Instead, he sent a message to the hotel concierge. Someone he owned, like he owned half of Seoul's luxury services. The woman in room 847. I want to know everywhere she goes. Everyone she meets. Do not approach her. Just watch. Then he poured whiskey he didn't want and waited for morning, when he'd decide what kind of man he was going to be. The forgiving kind? Or the kind who made people pay for the wounds they'd left behind? Imani's hands shook as she unlocked her hotel room. The key card slipped twice before the light turned green. She'd known coming back to Seoul was risky, but she'd thought 5 years was enough time. Thought the city was big enough to avoid him. Thought wrong. The moment their eyes met across that ballroom, every carefully constructed wall collapsed. 5 years of therapy, of moving forward, of convincing herself she'd made the right choice, gone. Because Dae-young looked exactly the same. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, that dangerous stillness that made people nervous without understanding why. Except something was different. Harder. Like he'd taken whatever warmth existed inside him and frozen it deliberately. She'd done that. Her leaving had done that. Imani's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello. Miss Cole. A woman's voice, professional. This is the hotel concierge. We wanted to inform you that there's been a security concern in the building. Nothing serious, but we'll have additional personnel monitoring the floors for your safety. Imani's stomach dropped. What kind of security concern? Just a precaution. Have a pleasant evening. The line went dead. She wasn't stupid. 5 years in Seoul before had taught her how power worked in this city. How men like Deong operated. He was watching her. Already. Imani sat on the bed, pressing her palms against her eyes. She should leave. Book the next flight out. Disappear again like she had before. But she couldn't. Not this time. Because the reason she'd come back to Seoul, the reason she'd risked everything, wasn't something she could run from anymore. In the bathroom, she pulled a folder from her luggage. Medical records, test results, doctor's recommendations. Stage 3. Treatable, but complicated. The best specialist in the world for her specific condition practiced in Seoul. She'd delayed treatment for months, terrified of coming back. But fear of cancer eventually outweighed fear of seeing Deong again. Except now she'd seen him. And the look on his face, cold rage barely controlled, told her he hadn't forgiven anything. Which meant she had 2 battles now. One for her life. One for her past. Imani wasn't sure which one terrified her more. Deong's investigator delivered the report at dawn. Imani's schedule for the past 3 days, cross-referenced with security footage, credit card receipts. One destination appeared repeatedly: Seoul National University Hospital. Oncology department. Deong stared at the word until it stopped making sense. Oncology. Cancer. Do we know specifics? His voice came out rough. No, sir. Patient records are sealed. But she's been meeting with Dr. Kim Sung-hee, one of the top oncologists in Asia. Deong dismissed the investigator. Sat alone with information that rewrote everything. She hadn't come back for him. Hadn't come back to apologize or explain. She'd come back sick, desperate, with nowhere else to turn. And he'd been planning revenge like a petty child. His phone showed 6 a.m. Imani's next appointment was at 9. He had 3 hours to decide what kind of man he was. The kind who helped a dying woman despite what she'd done? Or the kind who let her suffer the way she'd made him suffer? Deong looked at his reflection in the window. The dragon tattoo on his chest, symbol of the empire he'd built, seemed to mock him. You're already decided, his reflection said. You're going to help her. Because despite everything, you never stopped loving her. He hated that the reflection was right. At 8:45 a.m., Deong made a call. Dr. Kim? This is Kong Deong. I understand you have a patient, Imani Cole. Yes, I know about confidentiality. I'm calling to ensure she receives the absolute best care. Cost is not a concern. No, she doesn't know I'm calling. And I prefer to keep it that way. After hanging up, Deong poured his 4th coffee, stared at Seoul waking up outside his windows. Somewhere in this city, his ex-girlfriend was fighting for her life. Alone, in a country that wasn't hers, surrounded by a language she'd learned but never mastered. The woman who'd run 5 years ago now had nowhere left to run. And Deong was about to insert himself into her life, whether she wanted him there or not. Because some things mattered more than pride. And apparently, even after 5 years, Imani Cole was still one of them. Imani sat in the sterile waiting room, filling out forms in Korean that made her head hurt. Miss Cole, a nurse appeared. Dr. Kim will see you now. The consultation room was different from her previous visits. Larger, better equipment visible through an adjoining door. Dr. Kim greeted her warmly. Miss Cole, I have good news. We've been able to secure a spot in our advanced treatment program. Usually there's a 6-month waiting list, but a space opened up. Imani blinked. I don't understand. You said. Things change. Medical miracles happen. The doctor smiled. The program is fully funded. You'll receive the best care available at no cost. That's not possible. I didn't apply for any financial aid. A benefactor. They wish to remain anonymous. Dr. Kim's expression was practiced. Too practiced. Does it matter? You need treatment. We can provide it. Starting next week. Imani's mind raced. Anonymous benefactor in Seoul who knew about her condition. who had enough power to bypass waiting lists and cover costs that would bankrupt most people. One name surfaced. Impossible. Except nothing about Kang Dae-young had ever been impossible. I need to think about it, Imani said. Of course. But Miss Cole, don't wait too long. Your condition is aggressive. Time matters. Back at the hotel, Imani found a package waiting. Hotel stationery, expensive pen, a single note in English. Accept the treatment. We'll discuss the rest after you're healthy. K. Her hands shook holding the paper. He knew. Somehow, Dae-young knew about the cancer. And he was helping. Despite her leaving. Despite 5 years of silence. Why? Imani pulled out her phone. Stared at the contact she'd saved, but never called. His number probably changed. Probably. It rang. Her heart stopped. He'd kept the same number for 5 years? Imani. His voice, deeper than she remembered. Don't hang up. How did you know? I know everything that happens in Seoul. You should remember that. The treatment. Take it. Get healthy. Then we talk. Dae-young, I can't accept this. It's too much. You can. You will. Steel entered his voice. 5 years ago, you left without explanation. I've earned answers. But I can't get them if you're dead. The bluntness made her flinch. This doesn't mean. It doesn't mean anything except I'm keeping you alive long enough to tell me why you ran. A pause. Take the treatment, Imani. Please. The please broke her. Because Kang Dae-young didn't beg. Didn't plead. He commanded. Okay, she whispered. Good. My driver will collect you Monday. 7 a.m. Be ready. Dae-young wait. But he'd already hung up. Imani sat on the hotel bed, note in one hand, phone in the other. She'd come to Seoul to save her life. She hadn't expected her past to be the one trying to save it. But Dae-young's help came with a price. Answers. Truth. Explanations that would destroy the careful distance she'd built. Monday, she'd start treatment. And eventually, she'd have to tell him why she really left. The truth that would either free them both or condemn her completely. Monday arrived cold and gray. Dae-young's driver, a man named Min who Imani vaguely remembered, waited outside the hotel at exactly 7 a.m. Miss Cole. He bowed slightly. I'll be handling your transportation during treatment. The boss's orders. Min, you don't have to. With respect, ma'am, I do. Boss was very clear. His expression softened. It's good to see you again. Even under these circumstances. The hospital was across the city. Seoul's morning traffic gave them 40 minutes of awkward silence. Finally, Imani asked, how is he? Really? Min's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Different. After you left, he became colder, more focused on business, less interested in anything that didn't involve expanding territory or eliminating rivals. I didn't mean to. With respect, ma'am, your intentions don't change the outcome. He loved you. You disappeared. That changes a man. The words hit like physical blows. Imani had known she'd hurt him, but hearing it from someone who'd witnessed the aftermath made it real. Does he hate me? I think he wishes he could. Would be easier than what he actually feels. Which is, Min pulled up to the hospital. You'll have to ask him yourself. Treatment was brutal. 3 hours of tests, consultations, explaining her medical history in a mixture of Korean and English that left her exhausted. Dr. Kim was thorough, compassionate, and clearly very good at her job. We'll start chemotherapy next week. The regimen is aggressive but effective. Your benefactor has ensured you'll have private rooms, the best medications, anything you need. Can I ask, does he know details? About my prognosis? No, I wouldn't share that even if he asked. But Miss Cole, Dr. Kim's expression turned serious. Whoever this person is, they care very much about your recovery. Use that. Let them help. After treatment planning, Imani expected Min to drive her back to the hotel. Instead, he took her to a penthouse she recognized. Dae-young's building. Different apartment. Higher floor, but the same view of Seoul spreading beneath them. He's waiting on the terrace, Min said. I'll be downstairs when you're ready. Imani took the elevator up, heart hammering. The apartment was elegant, minimal, expensive. Nothing personal visible. Like a hotel suite designed to impress, but not reveal. Dae-young stood at the terrace railing, back to her. Even from behind, she could see the tension in his shoulders. Thank you for coming, he said without turning. Did I have a choice? Yes. You always have a choice. He finally faced her. Like you had a choice 5 years ago to stay and explain instead of running. Here it was. The confrontation she'd been dreading. Deong. No, not yet. He gestured to the table. Sit. Eat. You need strength for treatment. We'll discuss the past after you're healthy. You keep saying that. But we both know we need to talk. We need you alive first. His voice cracked slightly. Everything else can wait. Imani saw it then. Beneath the cold exterior, beneath the anger, fear. He was terrified she'd die before giving him closure. I'm not dying, she said softly. Dr. Kim says the treatment has good success rates. Stage 3 has variable outcomes. I researched. Dae-young's hands clenched. So yes, we need you alive. Healthy. Then we talk about why you destroyed me without explanation. The rawness in his voice made her eyes burn. I didn't want to destroy you. I was trying to protect you. From what? Imani looked away. From me. From choices I had to make. From truths you didn't deserve to carry. That's not an answer. It's all I can give you right now. Dae-young stared at her for a long moment. Then nodded once. Fine. Get healthy. Then give me everything. They ate in tense silence. The food was Korean dishes she'd loved 5 years ago. He'd remembered. Of course he had. After, Min drove her back to the hotel. Imani spent the rest of the day processing. Dae-young was helping her, but not forgiving her. Keeping her alive so she could answer for breaking his heart. It was merciful and cruel in equal measure. Very much his style. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Treatment starts Monday. Be ready. And Imani? Don't run again. I'll find you. She didn't need to ask who sent it. The chase had begun. And this time, there was nowhere left to hide. Treatment began with needles and nausea. Imani sat in a private room that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, watching poison drip into her veins while trying not to vomit. First session is always hardest, the nurse said kindly. Your body is learning what to expect. It gets easier. Imani doubted that. But she smiled anyway. Halfway through the infusion, the door opened. Dae-young entered carrying flowers, white chrysanthemums, her favorite, and looking profoundly uncomfortable. You're here, Imani said, surprised. Where else would I be? He set the flowers on the table, sat in the chair across from her four-pole. How are you feeling? Like I'm being poisoned from the inside. Technically accurate. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. The doctor says you're tolerating it well. You talked to my doctor? I funded your treatment. She briefs me on progress. At Imani's expression, he added, not details, just whether the treatment is working. They sat in uncomfortable silence. The four dripped. Outside, Seoul continued without them. You don't have to stay, Imani finally said. I know. Then why are you here? Dae-young's jaw tightened. Because 5 years ago, you went through something alone. Made decisions alone. I won't let you face cancer alone, even if you don't want me here. It's not that I don't want. Isn't it? His eyes met hers. You left because you didn't trust me with whatever you were carrying. Now you're sick in my city, and you still haven't told me why. So forgive me if I don't trust you to handle this alone. The accusation stung because it was fair. Imani had pushed him away. Was still pushing, even as he paid for the treatment, keeping her alive. It wasn't about trust, she said quietly. Then what was it about? Protection. Love. Sacrifice. She closed her eyes. Things that sound noble but probably just look like cowardice. Try me. Explain. After treatment. When I can think straight and not while I'm. She broke off, pressing a hand to her mouth. Dae-young was up immediately, holding a basin, supporting her as she was violently sick. His hand rubbed circles on her back, gentle, practiced. When did you learn bedside manner? She gasped when it passed. I didn't. I'm improvising. He handed her water. But I've seen people in pain before. Usually pain I caused. This is different. Better or worse? Worse. At least with enemies, I don't care if they suffer. The admission hung between them. Imani wanted to say something meaningful, but another wave of nausea hit. Dae-young stayed through all of it. Held the basin, brought water, didn't flinch at the ugliness of illness. Hours later, when treatment ended and exhaustion dragged at her, he helped her to the car. Min drove them not to the hotel, but to a different address. Where are we going? Imani asked, too tired to argue. Somewhere you can rest properly. The hotel is loud, impersonal. You need quiet. They pulled up to a modest apartment building. Nothing like Dae-young's usual taste. I own the top floor. It's empty, furnished, safe. You'll stay here during treatment. Dae-young, I can't. You can. You will. I'm not asking. He helped her from the car. Consider it part of the treatment package. The apartment was beautiful. Large windows, comfortable furniture, a bedroom that felt like a cloud. There's food in the kitchen. Security downstairs. Min will drive you to appointments. And he hesitated. I'm 3 floors down if you need anything. Imani's exhaustion made her honest. Why are you doing this? Because I can. Because you need it. Because, he stopped. Get some rest. We'll talk when you're stronger. After he left, Imani collapsed on the bed. The apartment smelled like him. Something expensive and cedar-like. It felt like being wrapped in memory. She should protest. Should insist on maintaining distance. But she was so tired. Tired of being alone, of being strong, of carrying secrets that had grown too heavy. Maybe just for treatment, she could let Kang Dae-young take care of her. Let him have this much. Then, when she was healthy, she'd tell him everything. Why she ran. What she'd been protecting him from. The truth that would either heal them or destroy what little remained. For now, she let herself sink into the bed he'd provided and pretended comfort didn't come with complications she couldn't afford. 3 weeks into treatment, Imani's hair started falling out. She'd expected it, prepared for it, still cried in the shower as it came loose in her hands. The doorbell rang while she was wrapped in a towel, staring at clumps of curls in the drain. Dae-young didn't wait for her to answer. He had a key. Of course he did. It was his apartment. He found her in the bathroom, tears streaming. I'm fine, she said immediately. It's stupid. I knew it would happen. It's not stupid. He grabbed a towel, gentle hands helping her up. Come on. I brought someone. In the living room, a black woman waited. Older, warm smile, carrying a professional-looking bag. Imani, this is Nadia. She specializes in head wraps and wigs for women going through treatment. I thought. Dae-young looked uncertain. I thought you might want options. Imani stared. You brought me a head wrap specialist? I researched. After chemotherapy, many black women prefer wraps or wigs that accommodate natural hair texture. I wanted to ensure you had choices. He was nervous. Actually nervous. If this is overstepping. It's perfect. Imani's voice cracked. Thank you. Nadia spent 2 hours with her. Teaching wrap techniques, showing wig options that looked natural, talking about self-care during treatment. Your man did good research, Nadia said in English. Most partners just buy whatever. He specifically asked for someone who understood black hair care. He's not my man. Just complicated. Honey, the complicated ones are always the keepers. Nadia winked. He's been calling me for weeks. Wanted everything perfect for when you needed it. Weeks. He'd been planning this for weeks. After Nadia left, Imani found Dae-young on the terrace. She wore a wrap now, deep purple that made her skin glow. Thank you, she said. For today. For all of this. It's practical. You need to maintain confidence during treatment. Your appearance matters to you. He shrugged. I handled it. Dae-young. He finally looked at her. What? You're allowed to say you care. You don't have to disguise kindness as practicality. Old habits. Caring gets you hurt. Is that what I did? Hurt you by caring? His expression shuddered. You hurt me by leaving. The caring was the easy part. Imani moved closer. Dangerous territory, but treatment was making her brave. Or stupid. I'm sorry. For leaving how I did. For not explaining. For making you think you weren't worth the truth. Then tell me now. I can't. Not yet. Why? Frustration leaked through his control. I'm funding your treatment, housing you, bringing in specialists. I've shown you I'm not the enemy. So why? Kang Dae-young still loved her. 5 years, 1 disappearance, and terminal illness later. He still loved her. Which made what she'd eventually have to tell him so much worse. Because her leaving hadn't been about not loving him back. It had been about loving him too much to let him choose her over the empire that would destroy them both. Week 6 of treatment hit different. Imani woke to blood on her pillow, nosebleed from low platelets. The nausea was constant now. Even water tasted wrong. Dr. Kim adjusted medications. Your counts are low but within acceptable range. We're watching carefully. Dae-young sat in on the appointment. He'd been doing that lately, showing up, staying quiet, absorbing information like he could control cancer through sheer force of will. Can you give us a moment? Imani asked the doctor. After Dr. Kim left, Imani turned to Dae-young. You don't have to come to every appointment. I know you're busy. I've delegated. My second-in-command handles day-to-day operations. Still, this isn't your responsibility. Then whose is it? His voice was sharp. You're alone in Seoul. Your family is in Chicago. Did you even tell them you're sick? Imani looked away. They don't need to worry. So you're protecting everyone. Your family from worry. Me from whatever truth you're hiding. When do you let anyone actually help? I'm letting you help right now. I'm in your apartment, using your treatment program, accepting your driver. Your body, yes. But not your trust. Not your honesty. Deong leaned forward. I've killed men for less than what you've done to me. You know that, right? Walked away without explanation, disappeared for 5 years, came back sick. Any other person, I'd consider it an insult worth retaliating for. Then why don't you? Retaliate. Get your revenge. I deserve it. Because I keep hoping you'll give me a reason that makes sense. A reason that explains why the woman I love chose to hurt me instead of trusting me. Imani's throat closed. What if there isn't a good reason? What if I'm just a coward who ran when things got hard? I don't believe that. Maybe you should. Dr. Kim knocked, returning with more test results. The moment passed, but Daeyoung's words echoed. I keep hoping you'll give me a reason that makes sense. That night, Imani pulled out her laptop, opened the file she'd kept for 5 years. Evidence, photos, documents she'd compiled about Daeyoung's organization. 5 years ago, she'd stumbled on something she wasn't supposed to see. A deal going wrong. Violence in an alley behind the gallery where she worked. 3 men dead. Daeyoung giving orders in Korean she'd understood just enough of. She'd realized then what he really was. Not just wealthy, not just connected. Actually dangerous. Actually criminal. And she'd loved him anyway. Which terrified her more than the violence. Because loving a man like Daeyoung meant choosing his world. Becoming complicit. Raising potential children in danger. Building a life on blood money. So she'd run. Made the choice for both of them. Walked away before she became so entangled she couldn't escape. She'd thought it was mercy. Protecting him from having to choose between her and his empire. Protecting herself from choosing him despite knowing better. Now, 5 years later, she wondered if she'd just been a coward. The laptop screen glowed. Delete the files, her conscience whispered. Let the past stay buried. But the files were her insurance. Proof she'd had reasons. Evidence that leaving was rational, not cruel. Evidence that would destroy Daeyoung if she ever used it. She closed the laptop without deleting anything. Not ready to burn that bridge. Not ready to trust completely. Because Kang Daeyoung might be caring for her now. But he was still the man who'd ordered executions in alleys. Still the dragon whose empire was built on fear. And Imani was still the woman who'd seen too much and run instead of staying to witness more. Week 8 brought a complication. Imani spiked a fever, 104 degrees, shaking, delirious. Men found her collapsed in the bathroom. Called Daeyoung immediately. By the time Daeyoung arrived, she was incoherent, mumbling about alleys and blood and apologies that made no sense. Hospital. Now. He lifted her himself, not waiting for ambulances or protocol. Dr. Kim met them in the ER. Infection. Common with lowered immune response. We'll start broad-spectrum antibiotics. Get the fever down. Daeyoung sat beside Imani's bed as nurses worked. She gripped his hand without knowing it, still delirious. I'm sorry, she muttered. Saw too much. Couldn't stay. Love you. Sorry. So sorry. His chest tightened. Shoo, rest. You're safe. Not safe. Never safe. Blood everywhere. You told them. She broke off, crying. Had to leave. Protect you. Protect me. Couldn't. Imani, you're not making sense. Alley. Behind gallery. 3 men. You gave orders. I understood. I understood and I still. Her eyes opened, unfocused. Loved you anyway. Scared me. Daeyoung went very still. Behind the gallery. 5 years ago. The deal that went wrong. The 3 enforcers who'd tried to skim profits. He'd eliminated them quickly, efficiently. He'd thought he was alone. You saw, he said quietly. Imani's fever-bright eyes found his. Saw everything. Ran. Coward. Then she passed out. Dr. Kim shooed him away while they worked. Daeyoung stood in the hallway, mind racing. She'd seen him kill. Had witnessed what he was capable of. And instead of confronting him, asking for explanation, she'd run. Because she'd been scared. Not of him hurting her. She'd said she loved him anyway. Scared of what loving him meant. What it would cost her morally, ethically. She'd chosen to protect her conscience over trusting him with the truth. Part of him felt furious. She'd made his choices for him. Decided he wasn't worth the complication. walked away without giving him a chance to explain or defend. Part of him felt devastated, because she'd loved him and still left, which meant her moral line was stronger than her feelings, which meant he'd never been enough to cross it. Hours later, the fever broke. Imani woke confused, weak, with no memory of her delirious confessions. What happened? Infection. You've been out for 8 hours. Dr. Kim says you're responding to antibiotics. Imani nodded slowly. I feel terrible. You look terrible too. Despite everything, she smiled. Always honest. One of my few virtues. Deong stood. I'll let you rest. Wait. She reached for his hand. Thank you. For bringing me in. For staying. Where else would I be?
Before the truth explodes, make sure you like this video. Comment your thoughts below, I read every single one. Share this story with a friend who loves suspense. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.